Hi, I'm Amy. I want to take you along while I'm making a few meals throughout this week. So to get started, I love summer produce. I have these beautiful tomatoes I bought from the farmer's market, and the orange ones came from my little garden in the backyard. And so I'm going to be doing a baked pasta. I don't know if you ever saw that baked feta pasta. This is sort of similar to that, but I'm going to be using a different kind of cheese, cooking the pasta in the oven, so everything will be in one pan, super easy. I'm gonna make another recipe, and who knows where the week will take us, but I'm excited to take you along in the kitchen this week. I'm switching up this recipe a little bit just because it calls for sun-dried tomatoes, and I'm gonna use some fresh tomatoes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bake these in the oven first for 10 minutes, and then put the orzo in here just because I want these to cook long enough that they burst. And so that's what we're gonna do right now. So I'm just gonna put the tomatoes in the pan, and I'm gonna add some olive oil. I'm not gonna season this, but if I had garlic cloves, I would go ahead, peel them, and put them in here. So I'm gonna kind of combine two different recipes, so I will write out the recipe below just because I am not really staying true to any recipe. But I'm gonna go ahead and bake these at 425 for 10 minutes. The tomatoes are now out of the oven. I just wanted to start getting them cooking so that way they will kind of burst and they'll get cooked the way I want to, and I didn't think they would with everything else added. Plus I love roasted tomatoes. So now I'm just putting in boursin cheese in the middle, a whole pound of dried orzo. I seasoned it with some parsley, garlic powder, onion powder. I also add salt and pepper in here a little bit later. But I only added 3 cups of broth before I put this whole thing in the oven. I would definitely just go ahead and add in a whole carton of broth, 4 cups at once, because I added more in later. So you might as well just add all of it in now. And I just kind of mixed it in a little bit. Then I baked it in the oven. Once I had the orzo covered in the broth, I baked it in the oven. It took about 25 minutes total. So while it's in the oven, I prepped some fresh basil, some fresh spinach, and here you can see I'm taking it back out of the oven. I started at 15 minutes. It wasn't fully cooked, the orzo. It needed more broth, so then I put it back in the oven. So it took 25 minutes total. So next time I would just do it for 25 minutes. But the recipe does say check after 10. Your oven might need as long as 30. So mine needed 25. But I'm gonna go ahead, and now that it's fully cooked, I'm gonna add in the fresh spinach and the fresh basil. And I loved the fresh basil. You know, the fresh spinach adds a nice like spinach flavor and some greens in there. And the basil adds that delicious basil flavor. So I will say don't, skimp on the seasonings because there's a lot of orzo in here. And so you wanna make sure you add a lot of seasonings. So I did go back and I added in some more parsley, some more garlic powder, and more salt, and I'm adding some Parmesan at the end. I love Parmesan in pasta. I would definitely make this recipe again. I do think orzo cooks better on the stove, but it's a nice, easy, quick recipe. Now let's move on to the next recipe. This is really delicious. I'm working on a project today. I'm doing homemade peach butter. I bought some peaches from the farmer's market. They're so delicious. They're perfectly ripe. So I went ahead and washed up 3 pounds, and I'm gonna be starting on a new project. I've never made this before, so I thought I would take you along. I'm pretty excited about it. So to get started, I am just peeling the peaches, and I'm just checking to see if I can peel them by hand. I don't want to boil water or anything like that. I also have a peeler here that just peels off the peel. The person did say in the recipe that the skin has natural pectin, so leave it on, and then after you're done cooking it, you're gonna strain it off. But I do not have the proper tool to do that. You need like a conical strainer or a food mill, and I don't have either one of those. I don't can regularly. This is the second time I've made a fruit preserve. I made strawberry jam before, and this is peach butter. And so I did look it up to see the difference between jam and fruit butter. And the one resource that I found said that it could be less sweet. You don't even have to add any sugar to fruit butter. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm hoping it will set up really well since I'm not going to actually leave the skins in there. So I guess we'll test it out together and see. But after peeling, I am just gonna go ahead and cut it in half. I should have cut it in half and then peeled it. It's a little tricky. It's so ripe and juicy that it's just kind of sliding a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna take the pit out of it. And then I'm gonna slice it into slices, about a ½ inch thick or so. I'm just gonna drop those peaches in this pan. I'm using like a heavier bottomed pan, so it helps to cook everything evenly and it keeps things from burning. That's what this person said. I will link the recipe below. It's from a Wise Guide. I love this account on Instagram. So I'm gonna go ahead, do the rest of the peaches the same exact way. I'm also going to try to use the same knife, which is not the right knife to cut this lemon, but I'm also gonna go ahead and juice half of a lemon. I think I'll do a quarter of the lemon. That seems like plenty. And now I'm adding in 1½ cups of sugar, which actually still seems like a lot of sugar. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stir it. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it over to the stove and cook it until it comes to a rolling boil. And then just let it continue at a rolling boil for 20 minutes. I'm guessing this will take, you know, between 30 and 40 minutes to cook completely. And we'll see how it turns out. I do have some used jars from previous jars of jam and jelly that I'm gonna go ahead and use, and I'm just going to store it in the freezer. I did read that as this is cooking, it's important to take the foam out. This prevents it from going bad and just keeps it fresher and good longer. It's been 20 minutes. I'm gonna turn off the heat, and it's still a little bit chunky, and I don't have a strainer for canning or preserving fruit or anything like that. So I'm just gonna take my potato masher and just kind of mash this up. And I might even cook it a little bit longer if it doesn't get kind of the consistency that I want it, because it's still pretty chunky. I mean, the peaches are still in, it's more like crushed pineapple texture. And I did just keep skimming off that foam throughout the whole 20 minutes of it boiling. And I don't know if you could tell the texture, but it's still kind of like crushed pineapple, maybe a little smaller. So I'm actually gonna use my immersion blender. This is not like a normal technique, but I'm hoping it'll work out well for me. This looks beautiful now, so I am gonna try and skim off this foam that kind of occurred from using the immersion blender. I got 4 jars worth. They are different sizes. I just used what I had in terms of jars, but this is so delicious. I'd highly recommend trying it. The texture and the flavor is perfect. I'm not sure if this recipe is gonna work, but I thought we would test it together. So I saw a similar recipe to this on YouTube, but she added chocolate. I'm gonna take cottage cheese, cheesecake pudding mix, and blend it together. And it's supposed to taste like a creamy cheesecake. So we're gonna do that. I'm also sipping on this drink that I made. I just thought I would tell you what I'm drinking really fast. So I have this Zevia cream soda. It's okay by itself, but in this it's good, I think. And then I have some orange vanilla sparkling water, and then I added a couple of splashes of orange juice, and the combination is really good and refreshing and just something different than sparkling water or, you know, just orange juice or whatever. So I think it's really good. I call it the fun drink with my kids. I made it a couple of days ago and I repeated it today. It's nice if you have orange juice left over that you want to use up, but you don't actually want to drink a whole glass of orange juice. So I just thought I would share that with you, but I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up in my blender. Ever since I rediscovered this smaller size of container for my blender, I make smoothies all the time. It's just so much more convenient than washing the big blender cup. So I'm not sure how much of these ingredients to add, and so I think I'll start off with less rather than more. So I think I'll do about half of this container of cottage cheese, and maybe I'll start with half of this bag of pudding mix, and we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping it will be good, and I could, you could add like a graham cracker crumble on top. You could make a crust. You could just eat it by itself. You could have it on top of a yogurt bowl just for a little something extra. I think there's so many options with what we can do with it. Well, that was a mistake. So I'm gonna start with a pretty good helping of this. And I'm gonna try to add about half of the packet of the cheesecake pudding mix. And that's all. I'm gonna go ahead and just blend this up until it is nice and smooth. And I did add 4% cottage cheese, so it's 4% milk fat. So let's blend it up. I just took it out of the blender and it's thick, it's creamy. I'll show you how it looks, but it smells sweet. So I'm hoping this will work, and we'll give it a try right now and see what I think. It's not overly sweet. I could probably add more of the cheesecake mix, and I mean, it's pretty thick, as you can tell, but I think it'll be better cold. It got a little bit warm from blending it up. I actually like it. It's definitely not super sweet. So if you want a really strong cheesecake flavor, I would go ahead and add some more cheesecake pudding mix. But I have a 24-ounce container of cottage cheese, and I added about a half. So for 12 ounces, I added a half of a container, or half a pack of the cheesecake jello pudding mix, and I'm really excited to give this one a try. I have some graham crackers here, and I made a graham cracker topping a few videos ago for like a peach cottage cheese recipe with a graham cracker crumble. It was very delicious. It was very few ingredients, like maybe 3 or 4. It took less than 5 minutes, probably took like 2 minutes to make, and it was really delicious. So I will link that video below. But I also think if you just dipped a graham cracker and just used this as a dip, I think that would be really good as well. Let me know if you have ideas for how to use this, but I'm gonna be using it probably as a dip. I think it would be good on top of yogurt for a topping. I mean, I think this is really good. So I'm excited to eat this, and I think my kids will absolutely love this. I'm just gonna store it in this container. I wish I had a round container to store it in. I'm amazed at how smooth this got, honestly. And I think this would be such a great recipe if you're having a party and just having like some graham crackers, Teddy Grahams, like wafers. I would definitely make it sweeter for that. I'm just trying to keep it a little bit more healthy over here. But if I was throwing this at a party, which I definitely would, I would just put different things on. You could even use marshmallows, and you could add like chocolate chips. Mini chocolate chips would be really good on the top of this. There's so many ideas for what you could do. I think especially once this sets up a little bit more, and if you serve it cold, I mean, what a fun, appetizer or sweet dessert. I used this for dinner. It was amazing. It was like a restaurant dish. I did French toast. I put this on top of the French toast. I made a homemade peach syrup with chunks of really sweet, juicy peaches on top. It was absolutely amazing. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed these recipes. I do always leave them written out in the description, or I leave links to the recipes, so check those out if you'd like. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.